Hi, welcome to this first in the series of videos on facilitation in practice. My name's Phil Wason and I've been facilitating for over 30 years, starting out as a teacher. I wouldn't have even called myself a facilitator then. The focus was really on me and conveying parcels of knowledge, getting across the content to the pupils. But as time went by and I got more involved in staff development and I got trained as a consultant, I worked with adults as well as with pupils, and then working in the charity sector and in higher education for 10 years, and then latterly in the railway industry and other heavy industries. I've moved on and progressed to the role of process facilitator. And it's not that training is unimportant. We do need people who are experts in technical training. There is knowledge to be learned. That's not what I'm going to be talking about in this series, however. We're going to be looking at the process facilitator and the skills that he or she requires in that role. I would go so far as to say that in many organizations today, in many small groups, the most important skill that needs to be learned is that of facilitator. If you want more effective managers and coaches, if you want better performance management, if you want meetings to be chaired more effectively, then you could really have a lot more people who trained in facilitation who could lend their hand to all of those roles. And in this series of videos, I want to be able to go through a whole toolkit for the facilitator, thinking about the types of interventions I can make, the ethical issues that are facing me, whether I'm an internal facilitator or an external facilitator. Am I there to be very hands-on and to guide them through a heavy structure, or am I there just to be in the room, maybe to light the blue touch paper and withdraw, give feedback on what I've observed? There's a whole range of interventions and styles I can have as a facilitator, and I don't want you to be put off thinking that this is a very detailed and complex science. A lot of this is about you. It's about self-awareness, knowing myself, and what we're trying to achieve. Which brings me to one of the most important points is, what are we trying to achieve? What's the point of this? Maybe what's the problem that we're trying to solve? What's the presented problem and what's the real problem? We'll look at that in more detail in video 2. But I also want to look at some very practical issues. Everything from the design of the workshop so that it's got a flow to it, it helps everyone's learning needs to be met, right through to the layout of the room and the scale and the space, and when we work in small groups, when we work as a whole group, and bringing all of that together to make an effective learning experience. What about evaluation? Very often, if you're invited in to do some facilitation, people are taking time off work, their other work. They have to be convinced that they're actually at work. This is a different kind of investment. They're just not in the office. And so how can we evaluate that this has been worthwhile? Not just whether they've had a nice day or the sandwiches were good. What's the return on the investment? What's the business impact? What's improved as a result? And did it meet the needs that were perceived at the outset that led to this workshop or this session, this event? But first, in the next video, I want to spend a bit of time looking at something that's required before you even get in that room, before you even meet that group of people that you're going to be facilitating with. And that is around the area of consultancy skills. This is a skill that is so important because without it, you'll be ploughing ahead with a lot of ambiguity. You need to learn to live with ambiguity, but to try and bring some clarity for yourself and the group about why we're here. What's your role? What's my role? What's the problem we're trying to solve? If indeed there is a problem. What's the presented problem? Maybe what lies beneath? And how are we going to get there? And am I an internal to the organization or am I external to the organization? And what are the hazards accompanied with both of those things? So I hope that you're warming up to the idea of this mini series, but also that you'll have a look at session 2, video 2, and I look forward to seeing you then.